Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast, where we support, inspire, and empower you 1 mile at a time.
I'm Tasha.
I'm Jennifer.
My name's Jennifer.
Real life stories from real people living this gloriously messy lifestyle.
Real unfiltered moments of the RV life.
The realities of getting and staying on the road.
It's all going to be right here.
Hey there.
Welcome.
Welcome to the Learn to RV podcast,
where every mile is a lesson and every stop is an adventure. You're listening to the Learn to RV podcast, the podcast that keeps you rolling and inspired.
The Learn to RV podcast is crazy and amazing. And, when you find those bumps in the road, you're going in the right direction because, sometimes they hurt. And so the reality is starting a podcast is wild and crazy, but it's also comes with a lot of responsibility. And so what I've learned this week, now that we're past the first phase of let's start a podcast, is there's way more to it. The story about how we started this whole adventure is going to be one that's a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, but maybe a little bit relatable. Maybe you're struggling in this lifestyle looking for connection. Maybe you're struggling in this lifestyle because your rig keeps breaking down. You're not alone. And so the Learn to RV podcast is going to be a place for you to come listen to our stories, share our sad woes, put up your own stories in our podcast group that's specifically designed for you.
Hopefully you'll laugh along the way with us and not at us.
Hopefully we'll laugh along the way.
Ourselves.
Sometimes.
1 mile at a time.
One crazy adventure.
Empowering RVers 1 mile at a time.
We're here to do that.
That's what we do.
All right, Jennifer, go for it.
Wait, there's a really loud semi going past me. You might pause.
As long as you don't
logistics.
As long as she doesn't freeze again like this, I'll be fine.
That I'm so glad that I could contribute so well to the podcast.
Well, if we don't keep laughing today, we'll cry. You've never had a day like that, right?
All right, I'm ready. I'm pulling it together.
We are professional podcasters. If nothing else, they'll come to laugh at us. We will be entertaining in all the wrong ways.
With us.
But Learn to RV might be for you if
you're sitting next to a car whose alarm is going off because it's the only place you can get internet connection.
Never had a bad internet connection on the road. What are you talking about? Are you... What? Learn to RV is one of those things that's kind of a heart project. A couple months ago, a friend of mine came to me and said we should start a podcast. And I was like, yeah, we can't do that. And so it's kind of a long story. So if you have a few minutes, I'd love to tell you the story of that one. No, actually, it started around a campfire. I was sitting with my friend Doug, and he talked about giving up Learn to RV. Back in 2016, he started Learn to RV with his family as a way to document his travels. And so his heart and his passion was to reach out to people that needed information, because the information was not nearly as readily available as it is today. And so, yes, there was YouTube, but there weren't as many influencers as out there. When we launched in 2013, there was nobody. And so Doug was one of the pioneers in that, where he, came on and helped people navigate their weight ratio and how to travel to Balloon Fiesta and how to get this or that, how to, learn about Thousand Trails. And so it became a platform for his voice, not just to share with his family, but to share with the community. And so for years, he affected thousands of people in ways that nobody could have ever expected or thought it was even possible. But in what year was that? 2023, we were sitting around a campfire in Palm Springs. And he said, I think we're hanging up our hat. And I said, oh, you quitter, jokingly. And he was like, no, I have to stop. My wife needs surgery and, it's just the right time for now. We'll keep the RV, but we'll come out on seasons. And he still does. So he's still a very much part of this community. But I said, if you ever do that, pick me. And, that idea was really the formation of, I didn't want him to give it away to somebody else in the community that maybe wouldn't care about it. It was a good brand. He had all the brand, well, most of it. I've had to acquire a few things, but most of it he had. So it was easy. It was a good brand to ease into. And I saw a vision 2 years ago for this thing that was far bigger than I could ever imagine. but it was also bigger than me. So in March, we bought it. We were sitting at dinner with them, and I said, I just feel like I'm stealing your baby. And his wife looked at me and says, no, we're giving it up for adoption. So I think it was time, if that makes sense, for Learn to RV to take flight and take wings. And so we bought a dead website because it wasn't really used as much anymore. People didn't know about it. He wasn't actively participating in it for at least the last year. And I brought on Jenn. And so that was, let me say this, Learn to RV is a passion project. It's not something that's making money. It is to be a great brand, but it doesn't have the momentum it maybe once did. We have some affiliate links at this point, which is great because 2 months ago, if you told me I would have been filled with a handful of affiliate links, I'd have told you, yeah, right. But the reality is very simple. It's a passion project. This is a heart project. And so I had to find people that would share that vision with me into where it's going to go. And so when I brought on Jenn, she had been doing marketing for me for a bunch of years for RV Roofing Solutions. And I said, hey, I've got this idea. And then I had dinner with her a couple weeks later, and she dropped a bomb on me. And that bomb was kind of like a lot of fun. But at the same time, it was like, so you said to me what?
I said to you, by the way, did you know that in my former life, I was a professional videographer?
You should probably not drink while she's
True
talking.
stuff.
Yep. Because, I was like, wait, what? Because you could have spit that everywhere, Tasha. Anyway, but the reality is very simple. So we had some of the skills in place already with just her and I. I saw the vision with 4 of us, and it hasn't worked out that way. And I'm kind of sad about that. But, sometimes you find out the people that you're working with don't share the same vision you do. And that's okay. And so at the Learn to RV podcast, we have been through our trials. And so Jenn coming on board was kind of a big deal, but it was also a lot about where are we going from here? And so I said to Jenn, well, I'm going to see Tasha in a few weeks. And she's like, who's Tasha? And now you'd think they've known each other for years, but the reality is very simple, is Tasha was a missing piece of this puzzle. And I knew that at the very beginning of the idea that Tasha was part of this. And then she dropped a bomb on me because both of these ladies are good at that. And she said,
Hey, did you know that once upon a time I was a radio DJ?
and then we talked about how cool
And
parents
Jennifer
are.
said,
And so I figured they don't need me. They could do the podcast on their own. And they're like, no, we have to do it with
No.
you. So here
You
we
have the
are.
heart. I have the skills. She's got the voice. And together we make a great team.
And that's the heart of this project. It's about more than one voice. It's about different visions, different ideas, but coming together to share one heart. And it's been a long week. So bear with us as we start this wonderful podcast and how we got here. The Learn to RV podcast might be for you, and it might not. And you know what? That's okay. You might be sitting there thinking, I already know how to learn RV. Why do I need to learn to do it? You might learn something. I mean, crazy as that could be.
We're still learning every day.
that is so true. Every mile is a new lesson.
That's right.
You're living on that one this week, aren't you?
Every
Yes, I
stop is a
am.
new adventure.
Every bump is a new chapter in that book that I get to read and study.
Experience.
But it's not just about us, for sure. It's about our community. And so we have taken it a step further. So when we first started the idea of this podcast, we were like, okay, well, we can build a podcast. And so we did. And so behind the scenes, we were recording for several weeks leading up to today. And we've had to scrap a lot of our plans. And so, I have a good friend, and her name is Becky. And she once told me, a sailor's plans are written at low tide in the sand. And I carry that one because RVers aren't much different in a lot of ways. Even the best laid plans get changed. And I think that that's an important aspect of what we're talking about. This week it feels a little more subdued than when we first started recording. I know that the excitement was high and everything was there, but I also know that we have so much value to bring to this community. And so there's no one perfect answer, and I don't think we have all of them. But what we've done now is there is a Facebook group for the podcast. So you can drop your questions in there and join. There is, and these were things that weren't there the first day we tried to record. There is a Patreon. So there's going to be some fun teaser reels that are going to be in there for anybody that decides they want to support us. We also joined Buy Me a Coffee. We have no idea how to use that yet, but we'll learn.
But we're going to learn.
We also accept green tea.
But supporting the podcast, is secondary. This is a heart project, and I've said this all along. And so, we're starting a project that makes $0, and I am proactively thinking, okay, someday this will be a great event. So my company, RV Roofing Solutions, will sponsor it until it does, but not to the point where it bleeds us dry. So basically, that type of sponsorship means that both of these ladies that have jumped on board with me understand that. It's an adventure. When Frank retired from the Marine Corps, we traveled with 6 out of 7 of our kids in a 30-foot travel trailer with no slides for 3 years till the kids outgrew it. And we saved our nickels and dimes and pennies and went to some buy here now pay lot for our Cardinal, which turned out to be a great rig. But we made choices because we had to. But he wanted to travel the country and see the world with his kids. And so I was not on board. I told him, no, I would never do this, over my dead body, ever do this. And here we are 12 years later with life on the road and kids graduating and moving out and being their own people. So I've done it all. My youngest was 1 when we hit the road. But it's not just about me. It's about your stories. So when I met Jenn, she was in Quartzsite. And she was kind of off to the side. And of course, I was bringing in a ton of people to a rally, like 42 families. And of course, at the end of the day, I was covered in dust and I walked over to a rig because I'd seen all her little people running around that week as I was there and we were setting up. And I said, "Hey, are you full-time?" And she said,
Yeah. Yeah. But meeting Jennifer at Quartzsite back in 2019, she was it 19? Yep. That was the first family we met on the road. We had been on the road for 2 years at that point. No community at all, and we felt it. So it was good. It was good to finally be in the right spot at the right time, and little did we know that meetup of ours was the beginning of a beautiful relationship for the long haul. I mean, look at where we are today, starting a
Yeah.
podcast.
Well, and when when we first got RV Roofing Solutions, where we were helping, with any type of anything in the, industry, the first person I called was you because I knew that I wanted you to do my marketing. And so, in your real life, you're actually a graphic designer. And so you helped me build up the website and all sorts of things. So it's not like we haven't been working together for years, just most people didn't realize that. And our kids haven't hung out together much, which is something we're going to fix this year.
We haven't been in the same place at the same time much. I mean, honestly, since 2019, I think I've seen you once or twice for really brief moments. So this winter, we're going to spend some decent time, all 3 of us, and I can finally meet Tasha in person, in real life. Yay!
Yay!
It's going to be a great winter.
Yeah, it is.
It
It's
is.
going to be a good one. Well, and Tasha, I mean, I drug her into this mess. So it was funny. It's just about 2 years ago that I met Tasha, like 2 years ago, almost this week. And so she had an issue with a roof. So it's funny how the RV community kind of brings people together in strange ways. But she wasn't at a family rally. She was at a grand design rally. And so we just happened to be there selling roofs that year. And so it's definitely a different dynamic, but I didn't meet Tasha I think I met Matt first at the booth. I don't think I met you first.
You might have, because I met Frank before I met you. And Frank took me up on the roof. And I love telling this story because I felt he empowered me so much. as an RVer and as like a woman out on the road. And so I love telling the story because I think that it like shows what kind of an amazing guy your husband is, but also because I love telling the story because it's like, hey, all you guys out there, women can do this too. Like when we decided to take on this life, I did all of the research. I mean, that's who I am, but I had done all of the, what do we need to do to get our RV on the road? What type of truck do we need? What kind of upgrades do we need? All of that. And whenever it was time to look at replacing the roof, Frank had come out and he was like, "Do you want to go up on the roof? And I can show you what we're talking about." And I was like, "Yeah, I want to go up on the roof." But he was the first man in the RV industry who had not bypassed me and went to Matt to talk to my husband. He spoke directly to me, and that made such a huge difference for me as an RVer. I felt so empowered. And he took me up on the roof and walked me through and was just telling me everything. And we were up there in the blistering heat of an Indiana August with no trees because, you don't do roof stuff with trees overhead. And he was just talking, and I just thought, this guy's so cool. I could totally hang out with these people. And then we said, yeah, please fix our roof. And then I got to meet you, and it just connected. I think like the very first time I met you, I was like, I'm so sorry, but I need to give you a hug. It felt so, I don't know, it felt like immediate. It felt kismet to me.
Yep. And our kids got along really well too. That was the other thing is
Yes, in a very weird way.
weird way. So, I mean, like we vied so we could have sent anybody to do their roof, but I was like, no, I want to go do Tasha and Matt's roof. And so they had kids around our kids' age. And so that was a big deal because you don't always find other teenagers on the road, but they had a lot in common. We knew that because the parents had been talking, but the kids were like, yeah, right, whatever. But so we go to Texas to go do their roof, and we're all staying in the same park, but we're on one side of the park because it's assigned sites, and they're on the other side of the park. And so they're under trees, and it's misty and it's wonderful, but it's not great for roof weather. But I drive Gus over to the location where the kids are meeting. And a couple hours later, they text me and they say, hey, I'm ready to come home. And so I go home and I go back and I pick her up because it's about, I don't know, maybe like a half mile. They could have walked, but it was misty. Shoot, they would have been soaked when they got home.
Yeah.
And I said, how'd it go? And they go, I had the greatest time. And I said, what'd you guys talk about? Nothing. We didn't talk at all. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't talk at all?
Not a
I'm like, do you know
She
anything
had
about
a
her?
great time.
But they had a great time. So they just hung out in silence together.
They did.
And they did exchange numbers and they kept in touch. And then the next time they came together, they had a lot more in common. And now I would say it's a really natural flow when they get together, but it's not just about that. But I mean, it's one of those things where you never know how those dynamics and those roles are going to play out. And so it's not giving up the first time on somebody too. And so, I always tell people connection is made not at the first meeting. It's made the second and third time that you get together. And so Jenn and I were lucky. I mean, like, I feel like we connected right away, even though the kids didn't connect. So, and a lot of it's your work camping schedule that's kept you on the road. So a lot of times it's not like we haven't tried. I mean, we were in almost the same place at the same time for what? A whole summer?
Less than 5 miles away from each other an entire summer and did not see each other once. But we had opposite work camping schedules, and it's just how it happened, unfortunately.
But that can happen all the time in this lifestyle. So staying connected and teaching people how to stay connected is really important to me. I always say there's no second row in a circle. And this week that got twisted on me a little bit. And I'm still struggling with that concept because the way it's meant is that no matter how small your circle is, you pull it back and make room for one more. Not that you always accommodate the person that's in the circle to be, well, yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. But what I can say is that everyone should always be welcome, no matter what, no matter if they've hurt you, no matter if they've wronged you in some way, no matter if you've been misunderstood. And, sometimes it's about making sure those connections happen. So I guess this is a little bit more of a somber message this week than the first one we recorded. But the reality is our lives have changed since that first day. And so what does learn to RV mean to me? That means making sure that everybody feels like they belong somewhere. And it might not be here. And that's okay. It might be with another group. It might be with a small group of friends. We want to make sure that people have those
There's a
places
spot for
to go.
everyone.
Absolutely. And what does that mean for us? I don't know. We're just going to take up space here and see where that leads us. It may not lead us anywhere. It may be just a way that we are here to empower you. Maybe you want to drive your rig and you think, "Oh, I could never do that." Well, maybe that's why Jenn's here. Because I don't drive my rig yet. I mean, I back it up and I can unhook and rehook it up, but I'm not the sole driver, not like some of us. Why did you start driving?
It's just because I'm a control freak. No. I just love it. I am a driver. I'm always a driver. I do get car sick if I am the passenger,
Okay,
so
that
that's a
makes
little
sense.
unknown fact about me. Yep. But no, I love driving. I've always even when I was a teenager and I used to help out with a youth ministry, we'd go on some event or whatever. I wanted to drive the van. I wanted to drive the van with the trailer. Like, give me the biggest vehicle you could possibly find, and I wanted to drive it. So, it works out well in our marriage that I do the driving. Now, he also does the driving because we have two vehicles, much to my dismay. But, I drive the rig, this big 42-foot fifth wheel and a dually truck. And it's fun.
Who pushes the cart at the grocery store?
I make him do that.
Look at you go.
Yes.
I can't. I have to.
But it drives me nuts.
I have to
'cause
have control. It's a
he
problem.
sits like this, leans on it, and walks, through the grocery store leaned over. So it drives me nuts. But I'm like, nope, you're doing that. Well, and normally my kids, are not too cool to hold my hand still. So I've got at least two kids. No matter where we go, I've got one in each hand usually too. So that's
I
the other
love
reason.
that
But
though. That's awesome. So mine aren't as little as they
yeah,
started out, and that was one of the things that drew me to you is our kids were about the same age. When I met you in courtside, I was like, "Oh, I think they have kids my kids' age." It's just you had girls and I had boys. Judah, however, is my
yeah,
youngest, and he actually traveled with mostly girls his entire life. And so most of the people he hangs out with still today he'll say, "Can I go see?"
our
And it's
girls.
always a girl. Yep. And so he does great
Yeah,
bead bracelets, and he used to carry a whole slew of Hatchimals. He had like a whole
my
collection.
girls, my girls are gonna love hanging out with him this winter.
Yeah, I think so, actually. So, you know,
They love making bracelets, and if he can teach them a few things, they'll love it. So that'll be
when I have
great.
like 14 bead boxes, I gave away 2 a couple weeks ago. But I mean, you know, you
Yeah,
know,
well, unfortunately, my daughters are angry with me right now because at the last end of last winter, we were in St. George, Utah, and I said, at that point in time, we were 99% sure we were going back to Utah this winter. And I said, let's just do something crazy. We've never done this before because I hate storage units. But I was like, you know what? The girls are having a hard time parting with stuff. We might be reaching that point where we just need to have a storage unit somewhere so they don't have to part with things. Let's put things in the storage unit. So we got a storage unit in Utah, and I encourage the girls, like, just offload anything you're not going to use this summer, put it all in storage, we'll be back next winter. That's where we're going to be. And so they put all their jewelry making stuff in storage because Janessa's like, I'll be busy with school or whatever. And Now she's regretting it because we're not going back to Utah this winter, and
I
I
can
don't
hook
even
them
know
up.
when we're going to be in Utah again. So they are so mad at me because they put things there that they now want. And I'm like, sorry, that's just kind of how life happens.
Yep, for sure. Well, and I mean, RV life is wild and wonky. I mean, like, who would have thought that we'd be starting a podcast? I mean, let's be real. So now we're going to have appearances this year, and I mean, we debut this thing in Hershey. Like, how
Yeah,
crazy
it's
is
crazy.
that? And I mean, I spent
Yep.
3.5 years trying to get into Hershey with RV Roofing Solutions. So not only are we into Hershey for the first time ever as RV Roofing Solutions, we're bringing Learn to RV podcasters with us. Hopefully Tasha will be there. That's the plan. And then
That is
Frank
the
and I will be
plan.
there.
Yes, I'll miss you guys. I'll be there in spirit. But
But in
maybe next
Tampa, you'll
year.
be
We're
there.
already talking. We're already talking about, making sure our plans are organized next year to be in Hershey next year.
Well, and that's going to depend somewhat on, what our life looks like as podcasters. So that's where the listeners are going to come
Sure.
in. And if they support us, which we hope they will, that means that, there can be more appearances with the three of us together. And so that would be awesome. And, we are families on the road traveling. But Tasha's dynamic's really different. I mean, when she launched, Jenn's been on the road, 8 years?
Almost 8 years in October.
RV Roofing Solutions is a nationwide RV roofing company with mobile installers.
One of the biggest factors and benefits of the RV Roofing Solutions system is our product is a low VOC, which is helpful for those who are sensitive to chemicals. It's better for the environment, and it actually works better for the RV roofing industry.
It's a great place to find a quality product.
www.rvroofingsolutions.com.
And I'm 12 and starting my 13th year. I mean, Tasha, you're the baby in the group. How long have you been traveling?
I am. We just hit 2 years officially. Yeah, we just hit 2 years, and it has been a wild ride. But, Matt and I were talking about it today, and because he said sometimes it feels like the RV version of the Money Pit, that old Tom Hanks movie. And I said, yeah, but you know, it's not it's not that bad. And he was like, oh no, I'm not saying that I don't love every minute of it. It's
Some days are better
we
than
don't
others.
regret. Yeah. Some days are better, when you're not packing another bearing with red greasy grease, and you're instead sitting on a beach. There's just some days are better than others, but it's been an adventure. It's never anything less than an adventure. And we couldn't ask for anything more than that. So
I think a lot of people who do not do the full-time RV lifestyle, they look at us and they go, it must be amazing to just be on vacation all the time.
yeah, this is not
Yeah.
vacation.
No.
Well, I don't know about you. I lived in vacation mode for the first 5 months, but I mean, that's a hard line too, because you're
You
spending more
quickly
money.
snap out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
is
as
real
soon as the
life.
money runs out.
We have laundry days, we have laundry days. We have
Mhm.
days of work. We still live, we may not work 8 to 5, but we have
There's
out.
still
Well, Tasha works
chores.
8 to 5, but
Yeah, I work 8 to 5.
chores and
Mhm.
responsibilities, upkeep. I mean, just because we don't have a house, we still got things that we got to keep up on our RVs and washing them, and none of that changes, unfortunately. But we get to move our home where we
Yeah.
want most of the
One of the
time, where we want.
one of the things that I feel like I've had a hard time helping people understand who don't live this lifestyle is that it's not necessarily that we have fewer bills or that our life costs less. The difference is that we reallocated where our money went. And so we realized that a stationary lifestyle was not fitting us. We didn't fit it and it didn't fit us. And we've reallocated that money to a different lifestyle. It doesn't mean that I have more money than what I did whenever we lived in a house in Arkansas. I don't. We have bills just like we did when we lived in our house. We just have different bills. And we have responsibilities just like we did when we lived in a house. We had to replace a roof like we would have had to in a house, you know? And I think that that's definitely something that I hope people learn. That sounds like such a boring thing to learn from this podcast,
Well, I mean,
but I
okay,
really
so
hope people learn. It's like it's an amazing life. It's so fantastic, the things that we get to do and the things that we get to see and the life that we get to live. But also, don't go into it thinking that's all it is because it is also the responsibilities of everyday life. And, I just hope that people learn about that from us.
I hope that we can, one of the things that I hope Learn to RV, the podcast, can bring to the community is not just the highlight reels, but the reality of this life too. And we want to
Yes.
dive into the reality of this life, even if it gets messy. Like, we want to be authentic with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other side of it is
Absolutely.
it's not just for families. I mean, yes, we all have families on the road, but every day I get closer to having kids that are all moving out. So we have 7 kids.
Empty
When we-
nester.
Not
Empty
yet.
nester on the way.
Not yet. But when we hit the
It's
road,
coming though.
it was so much easier to find families because our kids were the same age and little kids around a campfire, little kids around a playground. It's way easier to make friends. And so I think that in this stage of my life,
Mhm.
I have to be intentional about finding friends for myself. And I know I'm in several groups that are, 55 and up groups, basically with empty nesters. And they have to work harder at it than I used to have to. And now I have to work harder at it because my 13-year-old doesn't want me to be friends with all of his friends' parents, even though we are. But, his goal in life is so that we're not always the same. He likes when we are because it means we make plans to get together, but he also doesn't mind when we go out to dinner with another couple. So, and have the night to play Minecraft with his friends. So it's a little bit of both
Yeah.
worlds for me. So I feel like I'm kind of skating that line between those two worlds right now. And I think that there's a lot of people like me out there too, and no, they didn't all start traveling with 6 kids. I mean, they just didn't, because not everybody's as crazy as I am either.
Right. Well, I mean, all they got to do is need a new roof and
Well, yeah, I mean, the chances
call
of meeting
RV
us,
Roofing Solutions, and they just made some new friends on the road.
right,
It worked for me.
and our dynamic's really different. So, like, because we own RV Roofing Solutions, we're going to be at different rallies. So, like, we're Tiffin benefit partners. We're members of FRVA. We're members of Escapees. We're members of Full Time Families. We're members of the Republic of Nomads. We're members of all the groups. But then you have a high chance of seeing us. Like this week, we'll be at the Grand Design National Rally, and then we'll be in Hershey, and then we'll, I mean, there's lots of places we are that most RVers may not be. So you can meet us just about anywhere. And one of the things that I do at those is I actually have been starting to do a ladies only chat at a lot of those where it's like a seminar, but not. So like last week we played bingo here at the Forest River Owners Group rally. And the ladies got to meet each other and they said this was the only type of interaction they had like that at this event. So I think that the years of experience that we have, I mean, Tasha still likes me after I roped her into going to Bash with me one year.
Yep. It was a good time.
So she gets there.
Frank was in a chicken suit. Like, come on. You had to know that we were going to be friends forever. The second that Frank stepped out of the RV in a chicken suit, I was sold. It was on. We were going to be friends forever. Just
And what you don't know
I was
about
in.
me is I love people that stalk us. So I have a friend named Jessamy, and she's down in North Carolina. And hopefully she'll listen to this episode. I'll have to tag her. But the first time I ever met her, we were at church in the nursery, and she walks up to me and she goes, "Are you Jennifer Scalacci?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "I've been stalking you for weeks." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to be great friends." So, because I love that kind of energy. I love that kind of heart. I love that kind of honesty because it tells me that I can really be friends with you. It tells me that, you are my kind of people.
Yeah.
So what do you
Well,
think
that's good
that
because I stalked you all the way to the West Coast.
I appreciate that. I'm hoping you'll stalk me some more this year. So
You might have to go rescue her though.
I mean, I guess why listen is the next question is, why should people listen to this podcast? Like, what if they don't own what if they don't own an RV? Should they listen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why?
I think that might be because if they don't have an RV, but they're considering it, this is a great way to find out, is it something that you're really interested in, or have you just been duped by some really glossy YouTube videos?
And if they're not interested in it, they should still listen to us because we're going to be entertaining.
Because
and
we
the
are
rea-
lovely ladies.
And the reality is very simple. Back when I launched, there wasn't a huge YouTube presence of RVers. We were kind of solo pioneers out there in 2013. It was crazy. Nobody was doing this. In 2013, we were in Orlando, Florida, and that's where all the RVers would go, right? And so there were 13 families at a campground the last night of the season where we were all going separate ways, like, I don't know, like April 1st. We usually stick around another week or two now if we can, because it's just too cold in the rest of the country. You get this grand illusion that it's warmer somewhere else, and it's not. But the reality was simple.
Really is not.
It's one of those things where you think, am I doing this alone? Because this lifestyle can get lonely. And so how do you fix that? Like, I think we'll talk about that during the event. How do you get involved? And whether that's an RV group or a community group, whether you're a snowbird or, you're a full-timer, maybe you're just a sometimes, or maybe you're just a weekender. I think that there's going to be some value for that too.
Well, and another thing, we're gonna talk about road schooling. So if you're in a house and you homeschool or have any interest in homeschooling, you're gonna find our road schooling podcast knowledgeable as well. You're gonna be able to pick things up from that on how to work with your kids on learning in different unique ways or whatnot, and how to adapt to their learning styles.
And even if you're only on the road for a couple weeks of the year.
Or maybe you never plan on ever going on the road, ever, because you really like the comfort of your home. But you also like experiencing the stories of others. Dude, we have got some stories for you. Like,
We are gonna share lots of stories.
there are some stories here.
And we're going to interview people, and we're going to share their stories. Like,
Yes.
we have big plans. And if you're an RVer and you've been an RVer for, let's say, 15 years, more than Jennifer, more than me, and you think, I know everything there is to know. Yeah, I would bet that there is something that you haven't learned yet. Because at least for me, I'm learning every day, every week,
sure.
every month. I mean, something else happens. We're learning and figuring it out as we go.
Well, I mean, no different than like setting up a podcast and learning about, lemonade. I didn't know what lemonade was until, if you don't know what lemonade is, it is part of TikTok, right? Isn't it, Tasha?
And that is all I know.
That's all I know.
Anything you say beyond that, I'm learning.
We're really hoping that the teenagers in Jennifer and Tasha's household are going to teach us a few
And
things.
yours.
I'm going to have to start paying mine.
She's a lot more sheltered, so I don't know what she could teach us. She could teach us about the night sky and astronomy on the road, but yeah.
That would be a great segment. Ooh, or a little like extra on the Patreon,
Yeah. Yep.
Night sky with Learn to RV.
Yes. I could get my dad and my daughter together, and they could tell you just about everything you need to know on that.
That's a good time. I'd be down for that.
But no, the Heart of Learn to RV is going to feature things like listener shout outs and stories. And so we want to hear your stories. And so you can put those in the Facebook group for the Learn to RV podcast at any time. And so those raw, beautiful stories, maybe it's how you got on the road. Maybe it's your latest hardship. Maybe it's, spending Christmas alone. What does that look like for you? Our first Christmas on the road. So I didn't want to
a celebration.
Yeah, for sure. Our first Christmas on the road, I didn't want to do anything normal. So I did something weird. I said, let's have tacos. And my husband was like, and I'm like, well, it's so different and so raw. Let's just do something different that feels different. And so we scrapped the traditions and we did things differently. And really that's what we're doing,
We
right?
did
This
that too.
lifestyle in general is like paving our own path. And so when that path includes people, it's even better.
We're all walking to the beat of our own drummer. And sometimes our drummers match up.
And sometimes it's okay
Sometimes
when they
they're in
part
different
ways.
times.
Yep.
And
I
sometimes
mean,
it's okay when they part
I
ways.
have made relationships with people on the road, and I thought this one friend, I thought she was going to be a forever friend, to be honest, and it didn't work out that way, and it's okay. You know, life happens, life changes. You know, I every once in a while mourn that I don't have that one lifetime long best friend, but then I wake up and realize, but I'm surrounded by great people. And every time someone leaves, then someone else usually comes. And it just opens up the door for new adventures. And that's okay.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
fun. It's funny because I'm a connector and I have been since I hit the road. And for years I would connect people and then I wouldn't be friends with them because I would say, "Oh, Tasha, you'll love Jenn," and I'd introduce you to, and all of a sudden I'd work my way out of that relationship. And it wasn't on purpose. You just connected together. You two,
Yeah.
I realized
You're
as I
not
was
going anywhere, by the way. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I
you're
know,
not
I
leaving
know.
us.
into this.
No,
You're stuck with us.
I know
But
that. But
glue.
what I'm saying is that this past week, someone said that to me again. Now that you've introduced these people, you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in. And I said, no, I don't think so this time because I didn't introduce any of you together intentionally for a purpose. And so now I'm at a point though where I don't believe that would happen. So it's a different dynamic, 100%. And being on the road, I don't think that people see age the same way as we do in houses. And so, you know, I have friends in their 80s that I can't wait to see again this year in Florida. But that doesn't stop me from being friends with anybody. And so it doesn't stop me from trying to find somebody as we're walking to a potluck that looks like they need some place to go and saying, "Hey, come along. Well, I don't have anything." Well, that's okay. I brought plenty. You know, it's that kind of heart in this community that I think, especially since COVID, is lacking. So we're here
I
for all
agree.
of it. The raw,
We are.
the ridiculous, the beautiful.
And I want to say this. If there's a topic that you want us to talk about, tell us and we'll talk about it. You know, if there's something you want to learn about, tell us. Go to our Facebook page, join our community, our podcast community, and share with us what you want to hear.
And
We're
that's
always
free.
taking suggestions. We'll talk about anything.
And
Yep.
that's free. I mean, like, and that group, that Facebook group will always be free. It is a closed group. You do have to answer the questions because we are answering questions for real people out there, and we want them to feel safe in that community.
Mhm.
So we're asking you to actually answer
We
the
want
questions.
nice people. We want
Well,
nice people.
and that is one of the rules.
And every time we throw up a podcast about a topic where you can learn something, there will always be something on learntorv.com to supplement the information. So you will always find more information on our website to help you get started or to learn more. We want to just fill your lives with as much information as we can. So if we don't know the answers, we will find someone who does so that we can pass that information on to you because that's what this community is about. We just want to help each other make life work
We are empowering RVers.
1 mile at a time.
That's right.
With no second row at the campfire. So join the campfire. Be a part of the community.
Join us every week.
We're glad you're here.
Like, follow, and subscribe.
Be sure to join this crazy campfire crew at the Learn to RV podcast again next week. Like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.